Hey, great. Hi, everybody. It's so nice to see all these faces. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm just waiting for the last few people to jump on here. All right.
I want to welcome friends from various aspects of my life.
Yeah, a lot of different types of people here. Everybody's here.
Yeah.
Hear you, Dvora. This is great. So we are Teach the Shoah, and we are absolutely delighted to have you here tonight. And I want you to know that I am recording this session, for Dvora, but also because our coffee houses are recorded and then posted on our YouTube site so that people who couldn't be here today will be able to watch the recording later in the week when let me let in some more people when we get that posted up there. What you can do right now, what is this? Requesting to record to their computer. I don't know what that means. I'd like you to use the chat feature, which is on the bottom of the Zoom screen, to write just a little brief hi. Well, you don't even have to say hi because you're here, but something along the line of, I'm here from Mississippi, or I'm Dvora's cousin and I can't wait to hear her speak, or whatever it is, just some nice little thing. And all of this chat is going to be transcribed and given to Dvora afterward. All right, I'm going to do a little share screen here while you are all getting into the chat, and we'll put up the slides here. And I'm sorry if I'm distracted, but I have to keep letting people in. There we go. All right. So if you are not familiar with Teach the Shoah, we are dedicated to ensuring that the story of the Holocaust remains relevant and resonant. And we do this by telling testimony-based stories. We are challenging ignorance and hate. We want to build personal connections to the stories and to the lessons of the Holocaust. And we do this among people of all generations and backgrounds, people just like yourselves. In addition to storytelling programs like our coffee house programs, we have other resources that are all available on our website, teachtheshoah.org. I will put that in the chat a little bit later. We have things for you to offer to your congregation. We've got 6-week storytelling courses, so you can be doing what Dvora is doing. And then there are all kinds of other resources for educators and families on our website. My name is Tanya. I'm Tanya Wasoker. I am an instructor, a storyteller, a coach, and a board member for Teach the Shoah. And you already know that our featured teller tonight is Dvora Caspi. So before I get to the part where I introduce her and introduce her story, I want to remind you a few things about this kind of storytelling. So our story tonight, the discussion we will have, are part of what I would say is a sacred tradition of storytelling. Every telling requires a teller and an audience. And together, you and us, we embrace this story, we listen together, we notice together. And I like to start every time with just taking a moment to prepare ourselves to receive this story, right? To notice our own feelings, to listen to one another. So I want you to just close your eyes for just a moment, pay attention to your breathing, take a deep cleansing breath, nice and slow, and just exhale slowly. Notice your posture. Are your feet on the floor? Are you solidly in your chair? Maybe lift your head, straighten your spine. You can stretch if you want. Roll your shoulders a bit. Continue with that deep breathing. You are flooding your every cell with oxygen, and then, of course, releasing the CO2. So important to well-being. Take a couple of more deep breaths in and out. Breathe in and release. All right, I think we are ready to begin. Let me just take a look at all these faces to make sure everybody looks like they know what they're doing. Everybody looks happy. All right, so let's get to it. So tonight's coffee house highlights one person's story, but I think you're going to see how one person's story impacts so many other stories, so many other lives. We're going to hear Dvora's story. That's our first order of business. Then we will be appreciating the story, appreciating Dvora's telling, appreciating the information we've learned or how we feel about it. Then Dvora will have some time, a few minutes to talk about how she developed the story. And she's got some photos. And then at the end, we'll have time for more questions. Okay. So I want you to remember that everybody reacts differently to Holocaust stories, and that is okay. Let me let Linny in here. We will learn something from every teller. Give yourself some space, give yourself some grace as you listen. I ask you to please set aside anything that could distract you, like your phone or a TV or, your delicious dinner or whatever it is, and just listen with your whole self and try to imagine the story as you listen. All right, I'm going to put up this little introductory slide here to introduce us to Dvora, if you don't know some of these details. Dvora Caspi. Dvora is a child of Holocaust refugees from Prague in Czechoslovakia. Dvora's mother's parents and her other family members perished in the war. Dvora's work in this world has mostly been working with young children, including in Head Start and as a metapelet or a caregiver on the kibbutz, where she lived for 16 years with her own young family. Dvora, if you didn't know this, you should, is a lifelong civil rights activist. She marched in the 1963 March on Washington and then again on the 50th anniversary of that same march in 2013. And today, Dvora is a grandmother of 9 and a storyteller. Hold on, let me let this person in. Dvora is the keeper of the flame of her family's stories, and she is grateful to be able to share this story with you tonight. Gerta. Let me let Dorothy in. There we go. Gerta Schlosserova was a Holocaust survivor. Gerta was born in 1909 on January 3rd in Karlsbad, which is today in Czechoslovakia. Gerta married Dvora's mother's cousin, Gerd or Gerhard, in 1936. And she was the only one of Dvora's maternal family in Europe to survive the Holocaust. Amazingly, I think, Dvora met Gerta in 1991 when she and her mother visited Prague after the fall of the Iron Curtain, which is how they were able to go back to Czechoslovakia. All right, hold on a moment while I make sure that take this slide down so I can be ready for Dvora. And that means I will feel like there should be one that says spotlight. Spotlight for everyone. All right, hold on a moment, Dvora. Okay, so first of all, before Dvora starts, while she's taking that good cleansing breath, could you all please make sure that your microphone is off? And I would like to also remind you that those lovely chat comments that you have been typing in are really distracting in the middle of somebody's story because the person sees them going across the screen. So just hold off on the rest of your comments or questions or appreciations until Dvora has finished her story. All right, let me just look and make sure everything looks good. Dvora, you're good? All right, this story begins in 1945 when Dvora herself was only 3 years old.
When I was 3 years old and living in Hartford, Connecticut, thank goodness my dad had foresight and was able to get the family out because he had been born in Reichenberg. And well, that's a different story. My mom was very excited when the war ended that she would have a reunion with the family she left behind in Czechoslovakia. And the war had ended about just a little while before she received a telegram from her cousin Gerta Schlosserova from Prague. And she was all excited. What is she going to tell me? When is the reunion going to happen? But no, that's not what the telegram said. Back concentration camp. Eidlitz left Terezin in 1942. That was Mom's parents. Nobody returned. Gerd dead too. Am only remaining. Love, Gerta Schlosserova, Praha. My mother was not expecting that kind of horrible news. She had an address in Terezin in this concentration camp, transit camp, whatever it was, in Czechoslovakia. And she had been sending letters. She had sent pictures of me as a little baby. And she had sent tickets and money. And every 6 months, the Red Cross took those letters to an address in Terezin. Later, of course, she understood that that was sort of ridiculous, but that wasn't what she knew at the time. When she got this letter, she screamed. She screamed with her whole body, her whole spirit. And that scream lodged itself in my 3-year-old chest. And it's still there today. It took a little while until Gerta was got herself together to write the details of what happened to the family members who were left in Prague. Gerta described her experience and why it took so long, because it was just so dreadful. And she wanted to save Mom the pain, the same pain that Mom wanted to save me. It told the story of the cousin friends, her family, of close cousins would meet at the home of the grandparents, Emanuel Schlosser and Teresa Fleischl Schlosser. And they would have a wonderful time together. They would study psychiatry. Gerd was interested in psychiatry. They would study Zionism. They would swim in the Vltava, even though women didn't really do that but Mom went along with her boy cousins. They had a wonderful, loving family life. And now Mom was reading about their murder. Gerta was in Terezin for 2 years as a slave laborer. Her husband, Gerd, was also there. He worked as an electrician. Most people who went through Terezin came and went. It was like a transit camp. People were brought there before they were sent east to Auschwitz or Treblinka. But Gerta and Gerd were there as these cousins came through. Most of the cousins were there very briefly. And my grandparents, Mom's parents, were there 3 months. And apparently, Fritz was sick. And Gerta helped him. But he never lost his sense of humor, and he would talk politics, and he was optimistic. His wife, my grandmother, was very frazzled and very nervous and couldn't do things. And Gerta, the author of this telegram, would help. When it was time for them to pack, to leave, to go east to Treblinka. After 2 years there, a giant swindle came their way. They didn't really have to leave Terezin because they were slave laborers and they were doing things. But the Nazis supposedly needed men to start a labor camp, a work camp. And Gerd was told to go. He was very upset. He somehow knew that this wasn't right. But Gerta was sort of hopeful. Maybe it's true. He was very sad when he had to leave. And the next day, the Nazis said to the women, well, we see that you're so sad that your men went off to this fantasy work camp. So you are invited to follow them on this next train. Gerta knew that her husband would not want her to go. She didn't really have to. She was teaching English to the Jewish aldermen. But she chose to go because maybe she would see her husband. She was loaded into a cattle car, a coal car, I guess. The 60 or 100 women all squished together with a locked door. And she wanted, in filthy conditions, but she wanted to be a little bit pretty when she saw her husband. So she pricked her finger and she put blood on her lips. And the train went for miles and miles and miles, standing up and being knocked around. And when she got to the destination, it wasn't the labor camp she had hoped for. It was the selection at Auschwitz. Left meant life, right meant death. She wanted to follow the little children, the beautiful children, and her friend who went to the right. But no, the guard sent her to the left. So then began a chapter that she says was the worst nightmare you could possibly imagine. No, not a nightmare. Her brain could not have invented such a thing. There were electrical wires and beds on top and such thin people and screams and smoke. She had to go into the shower. They cut her hair everywhere, gave her rags. And she says it was awful. But she only had to be there for a week, luckily, before they assigned her to a work factory in Freiburg in Saxonia. And there she worked for 8 months before she had to get on another train. Because it was getting towards the end of the war and the Nazis were cleaning up. This time she wasn't fooled. She didn't know the destination at that time. She knew it later. That train was going to Mauthausen, death camp. And then at some point, so it was towards the end of the war, the Russians apparently bombed the tracks. And everybody had to get out of the train while the Nazis fixed the tracks. And Gerta and 2 friends lay down on the tracks, apparently under the train. And when the train was fixed, the tracks were fixed, and the train was on its horrible mission, another 3 days to Mauthausen, she was free. And these ladies found a barn in Czechoslovakia where they could be free for the 14 days until liberation. And then when liberation came, she was hoping for the reunion with her husband, Gerd, at the astronomical clock in Prague, where they had said they would meet. But he didn't come. It was not the reunion she had hoped for. She writes that she's sort of okay. She has a flat. She's teaching as before. But her heart and soul is broken. My mom was terribly upset when she finished reading the letter, and she was shaking and crying and asking for help. Who can help me? I'm shaking. What do I do? I can't take care of my kids. And the psychiatrist said, it's not you that's crazy, it's the world that's crazy. I was very young. My sister Barbara was a baby. And we couldn't understand why our smiles didn't stop the tears. I thought she was angry at me. And I probably caused mischief because why is she angry at me? It was quite a while later that I was able to understand that she was grieving not only her parents, but her whole life, the whole expanded family with whom she was so close and had this loving relationship. And I wanted to get to Prague to see Gerta. I also felt this need to fix the world and joined the civil rights movement. I decided to work with 3-year-olds because I needed to make 3-year-olds happy since I had really lost my 3-year-old year in sadness. It was 1991, 36 years later, that my mom and I were able to take a trip to Prague and meet Gerta. She was a wonderful hostess. She said she had bought food and and we should treat the house like our own. And we could go to the refrigerator and take anything we want, except not to touch the frozen bread that she had baked, so that that would remind herself that she never wanted to be that hungry again. She took us around Prague. We got to the Pink House Synagogue that has 77,000 names of Czech Holocaust victims, including the name of little 10-year-old Hansi Blach, Herta's son, mom's cousin, who might have had a chance to go on the kinder transport, but Herta hadn't understood how important that would have been. We got to the statue of the Maharal of Prague, Rabbi Yehuda Lev Batzalel, who was my 13th great-great-great-great-grandparent, the inventor of the golem from the 1500s. Our family goes back that far in Prague. And then it was time to go to the cemetery. Mom was very afraid to go to the cemetery. They're not, her family's not there. Their ashes are scattered in Auschwitz and Treblinka and who knows where. But she knew that her grandfather, Emanuel Schlosser, was buried there. He died before the war. So we went. And we looked for Emanuel's gravestone. And there it was, sitting next to his parents, David Loesch Schlosser and Rosa Schlosser. And that was also big and beautiful. But what's that written on Emanuel's gravestone? Lots of names. My mom's parents, the 13 cousins and aunts and uncles who had played together as cousin friends in Prague at the home of the grandparents, at Emanuel's house. They had been engraved on the stone. And look, there's a bench next to it where we can sit and grieve. And we did. And then the 5 days went by quickly, and it was time to leave. But I had seen that an Israeli representative, an Israeli shaliach, had come and had been working with some children on a play about Ruth that they were going to perform on Shavuot, which was the next day. But Mom said, and I wanted to stay. Mom said, no, we've got to get home. I can't breathe. But I really felt connected, like I had come home to a place I'd never been before, and I wanted to stay. Gerta said to me, please come into this other room, this private area, so I can give you an appreciation for bringing your mom to me. And I go into this room, and it is full with this beautiful Czech glass. Wow. I thought she was going to give me one of those pieces. But no, that's not what she had in mind. She said, here, I had 7 of these stupid yellow cloth stars that I had to cut out and sew on clothes so that I would be a target. I threw away 6. I saved 1. I didn't know why until I see you, because you are like the daughter I couldn't have. Please take this gift. I believe you will know what to do with it. Thank you, Gerta. But I did not know what to do with it. So it sat in my closet in the dark for the longest time until a friend heard this story and gifted me a sweetgrass basket from the Abenaki tribe in Canada. And that sweetgrass would contain this toxic energy. And then maybe I could take it places. And I did. I took it as a storyteller to schools and to my synagogue and shared it. And the kids would talk to the star. And so I would take the star when I went into a classroom and stick it here on my shirt. And I would have a little gold necklace with a Jewish star under my shirt. And I would ask the kids, what's the difference? And they would talk about being bullied. So perhaps that's what Gerta meant when she gifted me the star and said I would know what to do with it. I don't completely know what she wanted. I believe she wanted me to be a bridge between this loving family in Czechoslovakia and whatever new family. She knew I had a family in America. So I hope I have honored her. I hope I have honored Gerta tonight with her story. And that I can continue to be a keeper of this flame. Thank you.
Wow. Everybody just take a deep breath and hold this in your head for a moment in your heart. Thank you. Thank you, Dvora. Wow. Oh, look, some hearts. I'm going to take you off the spotlight now. I hope that's okay. And Dvora, can I give you some appreciations?
Please, please.
I know that you'll know what I mean by this. That was the best version yet. Okay, so I really have to appreciate, first of all, how much work you put into this story. Finding new documents and organizing the new and the old and working through the story and revising it and practicing it and reaching out to your colleagues and your friends to get feedback, which is what we tell all of our students and tellers to do exactly that, because the more chance you have to revise, I'm sure, Dvora, you will agree, and practice it, the more you will refine it. I also want to call some attention to what I'm sure everyone else noticed, your use of facial expressions and gestures. First you were very mild with the indignation at the giant swindle, but as you move forward in the story, the cemetery and just the outright, oh, and the horrors, that one brief scene, you didn't have to tell us much about Auschwitz. You just showed it with your face and your hands, your gestures. You really moved easily from scene to scene. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time, and I already know the story. So, Yasha Koach, that really was great. So,
Thank you, Tanya, for all your help.
you are welcome. So, those of you who don't know this, this is what we do. We appreciate our tellers. And I'm looking at the clock and I'm thinking, let me look on my little schedule here. I think we do have some time for a few appreciations in person, maybe 3 or 4, and plenty of time for you to typity type and put your thoughts about Dvora's telling there. So I'm going to call on Violet first because she was waving her hand at me. So go ahead. And I think I'm going to do speaker view. Let's see how that works. Go ahead, Violet. Let's see what happens.
Thank you, Tanya. Dvora, Yasha Koach, your expressions came across loud and clear. When your mother screamed, I heard it. I felt it when you said it stayed with you. And your pauses gave us time to breathe, gave me time to breathe. And I kept thinking, what else? What else can befall this woman? And then you moved from your mother to Gerta. And we learned what she went through. You gave us just enough detail because we didn't need to know all the horror like Tanya was talking about. We didn't have to hear all that. We were hearing and watching the life of that woman be drained out. But she hung on. And your mother hung on. Oh, I can't even talk. And so you're with us today, and you are able to share her story, and you do her honor. Thank you, Dvora. Thank you so very much.
Violet, thank you. I'm going to get Karen because I know she's waiting, and then Amy after Karen. How's that?
So what a bridge you are from the generations before you that you didn't even know to the future in front of you, right? And you have that gift of a star. I love that you said, I'm not sure that I know what to do with this, but you do know what to do with it. And you even had a little star that hung from a chain. I can only say that you are a light. And as we head into Hanukkah, we multiply that light. So thank you.
Oh, so nice, Karen. Amy.
Hi, I'm gonna get emotional. Dvora was my kibbutz mother when I was on workshop in Habonim with Habonim in 1983 to 1984. And just seeing you and hearing your voice makes me feel so connected. I lost both my parents already. One, my mom 11 years ago, my dad 14. And I feel like I'm back with the mom. And hearing your story, I feel like that was my family. Your family, and seeing, Abba and Sarah, and just, seeing Nama's name and Michal, and just it brings such warmth to me and makes me feel so connected the way that you told that. Because on kibbutz, I didn't hear this story, but obviously it existed at that time. To be able to connect on another level with you today and share this just means the world to me. And I would love to really try to stay connected with you and your family.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Amy, that was a beautiful tribute. Jennifer, I'm going to call on you, and then I think what we'll do after that is move to a little discussion with Dvora. So, Jennifer?
I think a lot of people know I very rarely have trouble speaking, and I think I'm gonna have a lot of trouble speaking. What we just witnessed is a dream of Dvora's. For so long to be sharing the story of Gerta at this kind of level of passion, compassion, and skill that has been something that she has worked toward and has been imbued in just who she is, and it's come out with such an incredible, I think, balance between such preparation and such just love and respect for herself, her mother, her cousin Gerta, her children, her sisters here. I just feel like something very special we have just witnessed. Thank you, Dvora, so much for being you and for bringing your life forward to all of us and truly living your life. You are an elder, as one of our friends called you and taught me to call you. You are an elder, and you are living full of life in your elderhood as much as you ever have been. And this story is just one more example showing us. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Jen.
Jennifer, that was beautiful too. What lovely, lovely, lovely appreciations we're getting here. I want to move on, and I hate to do so because I know people have lovely things to say, but I want to ask you a question, Dvora. I'd like you to share a little bit about your process for building the story. What was it that enabled you to tell it? How did you do it? And then you say a few things, and I can bring up the pictures as soon as you tell me to. Any way you
Yeah.
want.
Well, I think the best way is by bringing up the pictures
Okay.
of the star with the basket.
Well,
Of
I'm going to do them in the order we have them on here
Okay.
because otherwise it'll be too hard for me to
Yes,
keep
please.
track of what we're doing. So this is the first one.
Yes, this is the famous telegram that changed our lives. That Gerta sent to my mother.
Okay. All right, and next are a couple of transport cards that we found online for Gerta and for Ger. The one on the left says, well, they both say Auschwitz. That's Auschwitz. And then this beautiful picture. Tell us about this.
Well, this was when Gerta, and that's Gerta and me. Yeah, I didn't mention that we went together to Terezin, but we did. By the way, she did write a memoir that is actually in the memorial at Terezin. But as you can see by the smiles, we did have a good time together. And I really did have a family connection to her. She wanted me to be the daughter she couldn't have.
Tell us about this.
So this is the picture on the left is Mom and Gerta in 1991 at the cemetery. And the picture on the right is my mother touching the gravestone of her family. And she had thought that, the ashes were just somewhere. She was very moved to see the names engraved.
I'm going to show you the later picture so that they can see I know this was taken later, but now you can really get an idea. Everybody can see how many names are on there.
And you can see the bench
Oh, yes.
where we sat. And what is behind me that you cannot see is the gravestone of the parents of Emanuel Schlosser. And I know that Dan Oren is part of this call. His family, his wife, is related to Emanuel's sister, so would have been the child of. So that was important. Somehow, Dan is a genealogist and helped connect us to the Schlosser family that perished.
All right. Well, this is the last picture we've got, and I think your favorite.
This is the star that Gerta gifted me. And at the time, I really wanted the glass, the jet glass. But that star really, that's like a flame. And it was burning. And that basket, that basket, it has this really sweet aroma. And when you put the star inside the basket, it balances it. It's, I guess I always like to say the paradox that life is the dance of tears and laughter. And I think this picture sort of epitomizes what that is, because once the star is in that basket, I can take it to schools and I can share it.
Dvora, about how many schools would you say have seen this star?
It would have been more had it not been for the pandemic. And I'm grateful for online. And I do want to thank Teach the Shoah right now, because there are so many of us on this call who are holding survivor stories, who are interviewing survivors, and we are all keepers of a flame. And a flame can burn and overwhelm, and this flame has overwhelmed me at times. But when it's contained, it can turn into light. And I think that's what Teach the Shoah is doing. We are turning survivor stories from pain to light, which doesn't take away the pain. The pain is going to be there, but it's
illuminating, and thank you. I think that's a perfect way to end this. And Stephen, before I call on you, let me just pull up this one reminder for everybody. What we do here is develop our stories using source documents, primary source documents and records. And those really can include your personal conversations with your family member or the descendants of a survivor or a victim. And of course, Dvora had conversations with her mother, with Gerta, with her father, and then letters and this telegram and the book. And I forgot, Dvora, I think you said it was your son's book, or your son-in-law's son-in-law's book.
And he's on the call.
And all of this information. So I'm going to pull this down here, and I think this is a good moment to take some questions. It's 8:50, so we'll take, 5 minutes or so, and then we'll relax. And we're going to start with Steve Salzberg because he's been waiting patiently for 5 minutes. Dvora, moi. Steve, you're on.
Thank you, Tanya, so much.
Sorry. Dvora, we met on the phone just this past week. And I am so thankful and appreciative of what you've done with this. The story, the flame of the star is you. You have given it life, you have given it light, and you have given it the warmth that it deserves. I feel privileged to know you, to have had the opportunity to meet with you. I've been hectically busy this week, so I haven't been able to get back to you, but let me just tell you, I really appreciate everything you have done.
Thank you, Steve.
Oh, that was very, very moving. Thank you, Steve. Does anybody else? I'm going to put this on full gallery view here so that Dvora can relax her face for a moment. Does anybody else have any? This is a good moment for a question or another comment. I know it's 8:52. I have maybe 3 minutes of spiel at the end. And Diana, go for it.
I just want to second everything that people have said. I am so grateful for hearing this story. And I don't have any direct relatives to the survivors. I'm not a survivor, but I believe very much in the power of our ancestors and the power of our story. And thank you for bringing me into that fold and helping me embrace your family in a way that I couldn't from not hearing the story. And I am so curious. I want to know who put the gravestone there. How did you get the gravestone with all the names on it? To me, that's a big mystery.
Yeah, it is. I need to call the cemetery, but I don't know if we think there was. I don't know. I don't want to guess. I don't know.
Good question, Diana, and very
Thank
nice
you.
insight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, do you want to say?
Hi, Dvora. I think it's obvious how moved everybody is by your presentation. But for me, one of the marks of a really effective presentation is it leaves me with wanting to ask follow-up questions. So I'll ask two questions. I don't know if you can even answer one of them, but the first question I had was, how is it that Gerta and Gerd were able to stay in Theresian much longer than most people? What was the status they had that they were able to do that? And the other is, how is it that your cousin, however she was related, decided to stay in Prague when most survivors just wanted to get out of Europe?
So Gerd was working as an electrician. He was also carrying trunks from the transports. That's how they got together, because men and women were separate. And she was also cutting potatoes. She was cooking. But basically, she was a teacher of the Jewish alderman, like the mayor. Terezin was a little bit different than other, concentration camps. It was, people lived there, and people were coming and go. That's where they would.
All right, they were transported from there. That's why I'm wondering how they managed to withstand the being in the place, even though everybody else was being transported, so many other people.
Yeah, and one of the reasons that I might think that survivors had such a difficulty talking about their story is that, they have to do things that they're not necessarily proud of later.
Mhm.
But that's survival.
Thank you.
In answer to your second question, I asked her that. Her sister moved to Israel, to Haifa, and I met with her sister when I was in Israel. But she was loyal to Prague, and she continued teaching. And one of the slides that we didn't put up, she also was teaching French, and she would travel to France. And that's how she stayed in touch with Mom. When Czechoslovakia was behind the Iron Curtain, she couldn't accept letters from America. So the only way that she really was able to stay in touch with my mom during those 36 years that, they were separate once they knew about each other, was when she would travel to France. And she did write a book about how to teach French that she wrote in Czech.
Toda rabah.
Bavakasha. Thank you, Suri.
Thanks, sorry. Thank you, sorry. All right, I think I need to come to some ending moments, and we want to step away from Gerta's story and honor her memory. I'm going to bring up a slide, and just for a moment, take a couple more deep breaths just to cleanse, I guess, cleanse yourself is what I'm kind of thinking about here. This idea of reconnecting. Before we go, this is a piece of the Teach the Shoah team with, Dvora Caspi's telling tonight. But you should know that there are more than 100 storytellers in addition to the people on the board or running a program or two. And these are people just like yourselves, maybe a child of a survivor or a child with no family that suffered, but a person who wants to tell the story of others who were liberators or survivors or victims. And we have these 6-week classes, and we get you so that you can take any documents and do exactly what Dvora just said. Be the keeper of the flame, illuminate for everybody else. And we count on you to help us help these voices to be continued. I'm going to put a couple of email type things in the chat so that if you want to take those out, you can actually click them while you're sitting there, and they'll open in different windows and you can look at them later. One of them is our email, info@teachtheshoah.org. Our website is, of course, teachtheshoah.org. I put my name on there in case you wanted to say something to me too. We do have a YouTube channel, and there are many, many coffee houses and short 3-minute videos that we have been recording for different topics over the last year or two. Get in touch with us if you would like to join a class, or if you would like some individual coaching from me or from one of our other coaches. And I do want to emphasize all of our sessions are free, not necessarily the 6-week classes, but all of these programs are free. And if you would like to help us keep them free, I'm going to put that little link in here too. We are a nonprofit organization, and we absolutely welcome even small donations just to help us. Yes, thank